Good evening, spooks, and welcome to the season of the spooks. Not to be confused with Stick Season or Season of the Witch. This is our season. It is the season of the spooks, and let's talk about some spooky books. So in today's video, I will be going through some of my favourite horror books that I have read, some of the horror books on my shelf that I can't wait to read, and some books that are coming out next year that I cannot wait to read. Let's crack on. First up, let me tell you 3 of my favourite horror books. Now, I tried to pick 3 books that I haven't mentioned too much on my channel before. I failed on one because I had to mention it, but I would like to give you a little bit of a variation. So these books are still books that I rated 5 stars, still obsessed with them, but I tried to pick ones that I haven't featured on favourite lists before. Let's just begin. First up on my 5-star horror books, I have The Salt Grows Heavy by Cassandra Khaw. Look at this cover. How many times do I say that in a video? Absolutely horrifying? You would be correct. So this is a very short book. This is a novella, and it follows the journey of a mermaid. This is the mermaid for reference. She has a lot of teeth, and her plague doctor friend, here is the plague doctor, just so you can really, visualize the horror of this book. You can't visualize it. You actually can't. And they journey through an isolated forest and come across a campsite filled with bloodthirsty children. The novella is basically their journey and their attempts to escape. So the mermaid and her spooky little plague doctor have to fight for their survival, and it gets gory, it gets gnarly, it gets disgusting. If you like gore, this is the horror for you. Okay, the way Cassandra writes is just stunning. If you're not sure whether gore is for you, let me read you this quote, and just so you know what you're getting yourself in for, okay? So our lovely mermaid friend here is, she's getting some revenge on a surgeon. I rear upwards, mouth distending. My teeth close on the hinge of the surgeon's jaw and bend. They perforate the underside of his mouth, impale his tongue. He gurgles a screeching objection and pinwheels backwards, hands slapping at the air. I follow, dragged by his momentum. Sinew gashed to rags, skin torn, viscera slopping free of their containment. Something in me pulls taut, something snaps. His jaw I devour, molar and membrane chewed to a paste, swallowed. Before he can move, I plunge my head down again, this time into the hollow of his throat. I crunch through clavicle, barely pausing to taste, tongue snaking into the pulmonary tract. I gorge myself on his pain, I eat him alive. If that feels like too much for you to stomach, don't pick this book up. If you think that sounds like a fun, good time, give this a read, because I'm going to have to reread this. Just reading that quote made me desperate to read this again. It is less than 130 pages long, so highly recommend you pick this up. It is gross and it is poetic. Next up, I have a slight repeat, but I just can't leave it off this list, okay? And that is Mayfly by CJ Lead. This is often described as American Psycho, but for the girlies. I've never read American Psycho, but it even says on the back it's inspired by the pages of American Psycho. So if you like that, you will enjoy this, I think. It follows our girl Maeve, and although it's not ever explicitly said, Maeve is Elsa at a Disney resort. It just says that she's like an ice princess or whatever, but we know what you're putting down, Lead. She is Elsa. So her day job is to be a beautiful, lovely princess, but by night things go awry. For every action done to her that she deems wrong, she seeks revenge, and her revenge is unhinged. It is extremely gruesome and very bloody, so it's not for the faint of heart. There was one scene where I had to actually put it down and walk away because I was like, I just don't think I can read that, but I went back to it and it was a 5-star. But there is friendship, there is love, and there is brutal torture. Let me give you a snippet of the gore. I peel a lot more skin and shove a lot of body parts into a lot of orifices. And finally, I step back and take in a deep breath. I wipe my forehead with the back of my hand, and there's a piece of skin and ligament or something else drippy and sinewy hanging from my pinky finger. I consider it for a moment, then open my mouth and drop it onto my tongue. I chew thoughtfully. Disgusting, Maeve. But on the flip side, there is also some really beautiful commentary, so I just wanted to also read you that side of it. He howls questions to me. Who are you? Why are you doing this? I didn't do anything to anyone. I don't deserve this. Why me? This is a failing of men. This same violence applied to a woman, she does not ask why it is being inflicted upon her. She only struggles unsuccessfully to free herself and grieves the fact that she has grieved her entire life, one that she understands fundamentally and innately, that violence simply occurs. It's very well written. It's not just gratuitous violence, it is quite profound in places. Impeccable CJ lead, 5 stars. Lastly on this list, I have A House with Good Bones by T. Kingfisher. I actually got this out from the library, so I don't have a physical copy, which also means I don't have any quotes to share. However, I think this is one of my favourite T. Kingfisher books that I've read so far. It is a gothic tale of a family home and garden haunted by a very bitter, sinister entity, and the family's journey of survival escalates and escalates and escalates into some seriously supernatural, spooky madness. I'm saying nothing else. Please give it a read. It was a 5-star. Next up, we're going to talk about the 3 books that I am desperate to read on my TBR. This one might be a surprise if you've been around for a while and you watched my 2023 horror ratings video, because I rated another book by this author 1 star. It was my worst horror of 2023. With that being said, I can't wait to read Brainworms by Alison Romfit. Again, we need to just appreciate the covers. So I did read Tell Me I'm Worthless, and I did not like it at all, mainly because it felt like hate porn rather than it being badly written, because I think it was written okay. It just was too much hate for me at every angle, and I just wasn't having a good time at all. But I am excited to give this one a go. This is a body horror, so I'm expecting lots of gore, and I like that. I believe that Alison writes a lot of stories that involve transphobia, so I'm expecting there to be a certain level of hate. I'm just hoping that the story outweighs the major upset and it's not just gratuitous hate. I'm hoping that there is a very good story underlying it. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to reading this one and giving Alison another go. By now, it will be no shock to you that I really enjoyed The Invocations by Crystal Sutherland. And when I walked into a little bookshop in Oxford and saw House of Hollow by Crystal Sutherland sitting on the shelves, I was like, hang on, she's written something else, why didn't I know this? I immediately bought this. Did I immediately read it? No, I did not, but that's not my business, okay? I don't know. Don't ask questions, I don't know the answer. This book is about Iris and her sisters discovering what supernatural horror happened to them when they were children. All of them disappeared as children, and when they returned, they all had matching scars at the base of their throats. Gross. And now as Iris is 17, I think. As she's much older, her older sister goes missing again, and her and her sister have to try and work out what happened, why it's happening, and what the links are between this disappearance and their disappearance when they were children, and what the supernatural horror is. I'm expecting this to be very sinister and very dark. It's probably going to have some very dark themes running through it, but either way, I'm very excited to give it a read. Lastly on this list, I have the collection of short horror stories of The Flesh. This was a pre-order, it came very recently, and let me tell you who it features. It has on here Bridget Collins, Marina Enriquez, and Amelia Hart, and lots of others, but I wanted to point out those 3 because Bridget Collins, if you've watched literally any other video of mine, you'll know that I love her. She wrote The Binding, which I rated 5 stars. She wrote The Silence Factory, which I rated 5 stars. So I'm a big fan. Marina... Did I say Marina? I meant Mariana. Mariana Enriquez wrote the short story collection Things We Lost in the Fire and The Dangers of Smoking in Bed, both of which I really enjoyed. And Amelia Hart wrote Wayward, which is a witchy novel. She also has another book coming out, which I've only just realised. It comes out in February of next year and it's called The Sirens. So that will be definitely getting pre-ordered. But anyway, of The Flesh, the tagline for this says, "These stories from 18 masters of the craft will curdle your blood, haunt your dreams, and redefine terror." I know I've mentioned that I've kind of been going off short stories a little bit lately, but I think we can make an exception. Especially for Bridget Collins. I would do anything for Bridget Collins. Let me tell you about some new releases that are coming up next year that I cannot wait for. First up, on January the 14th, 2025, we will be expecting Brady Hendrix's Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. Now, I have never read anything by this author. I've heard amazing things. I just have never read anything, and I don't know why. I would like to read Horror Store. That's by him, isn't it? And I think I started reading the vampire one, but never quite got into it. But this has me in a chokehold. I love witchy books and I love spooky books, so I am so ready to read this come January. I believe this book is about a home where young girls, if they fall pregnant and they don't quite have a husband yet, go here and give birth, basically. It's very similar in premise to The Ghost Woods by CJ Cook. CJ Cook. Wait, yeah, CJ Cook. Very similar sort of premise because that's also quite witchy and it's also involving a home where young girls go. So quite similar, I think, but I really enjoyed that, so I'm hoping I'm going to enjoy this one too. But the girls in this story, actually, I think they discover a book of the occult and they learn how to use magic and they find their power. So very interesting to see how this one goes. Next up we have At Dark I Become Loathsome by Eric LaRocca. And I have had an Eric LaRocca book on my shelf for an obscene amount of time. And the reason is this. I have been told by many people I will love Eric LaRocca. The internet also tells me. Goodreads is like, hey, you will love this book. And it's just too much pressure, okay? I'm scared of reading the one I have on my shelf, which is Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke, because I've been told how much I'll enjoy it, and what if I don't? I don't want to let people down, so it stays on my shelf. But I really need to read it, and I'm definitely going to read this one because this sounds amazing. This comes out on January the 28th, so another January one. Let me just read you the blurb, because I couldn't do this justice putting it in my own scrambled words. The tagline says, it is a grim yet gentle, horrifying yet hopeful, intense tale of death, trauma, and love. Struggling to overcome his own endless grief, one night Ashley finds connection with Jinx, a potential candidate for Ashley's next ritual, who spins a tale both revolting and fascinating. Thus begins a relationship that traps the two men in an ever-tightening spiral of painful revelations where long-hidden secrets are dragged, kicking and screaming into the light. I just can't wait. Lastly on this list, okay, this one is a long wait. It doesn't come out until the 22nd of July, but the Cassandra Core has another book coming out, and it is The Library at Hellbore. When I discovered this, I did a noise, okay? Look, we don't get much excitement here. That's probably as good as it gets, but is plenty. What? Let me tell you about this book because, wow, just wow. Not only is this a horror, I mean, hi, it's Cassandra Core, of course it's going to be disgusting, visceral horror. This is also a dark academia book. So basically, the premise of the story is Hellbore is an institute, and you get sent there if you're kind of a wrong'un. If you're a little bit naughty, you know, they're like, we'll ship you off to Hellbore, and it's supposed to straighten you out. However, come graduation day, the pupils aren't the problem. The teachers are eating the class members. Eating, devouring, a snack. So to avoid the teachers, the main character and their friends have to shut themselves into the library at Hellbore, and in order to keep the teachers at bay, they have to make a human sacrifice every day. A murder a day keeps the teachers at bay. That's the saying, right? We've all heard it. Yeah? I was so buzzed to read that Cassandra had another book coming out. Can't wait to read this one. I'm tempted to save it and have kind of a spooky September, because that will tie in with going into autumn and also Dark Academia, so that would be so good. So maybe I don't mind waiting until July, okay? But wow. I've saved the best till last. I cannot wait to read this book. I couldn't do a spooky books video, a horror fanatic video, and not mention just a couple of films and TV shows that I love. So consider this just a little bonus snippet at the end, and I won't go into massive detail, but I want to tell you that there is an amazing Netflix show, if you haven't heard of it already, called The Cabinet of Curiosities, and every episode is a standalone horror film, I guess, and it is just really well done. I mean, obviously, look who the filmmaker is. Highly recommend. I have two favourite horror films. The first is The Visit, which, in my opinion, has an incredible plot twist that I personally did not see coming, and even to this day, that scene where the plot twist is revealed gives me goosebumps. I only need to think about that scene and I will get goosebumps. Massively recommend. The second one I want to mention is Hereditary, and all I will say is that scene. And if you know, you know, and if you don't know, you just need to watch it and you'll know exactly which scene I mean. Had me shook. I couldn't finish this video without mentioning those, but thank you so much for watching. As always, if you have any horror recommendations, any sort of sub-genre of horror, I will always want to know in the comments, please. The fact that there is a horror and Dark Academia crossover that I never knew about, I didn't even know that could be a thing. Huh. If you know any more like those, please let me know. But if not, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in a video very soon. Bye!
Let me show you a place where you gon' wanna move your feet until they start to